Welcome to Lake Placid, New York, and site of the second run for the BMW IBSF World Cup four-man first event of the year. Hello, everybody. I'm John Morgan, joined by Alana Myers-Taylor, three-time Olympic medalist in women's bobsledding. And second run, we saw some exciting competition in the first run. No crashes. Track slow, almost a full second off the track record, but same cast of characters.
Yeah, same cast of characters at the top, but they're always looking to improve on the second run. So we're going to have some really tight racing this next heat to see who wins it all.
Friedrich, who won one of the two-man races last weekend, third place into the first run. German sleds just didn't seem like they had good speed on the bottom part of the track. Next up, well, this Oscar's Kiebermatis. He won the silver medal at this event last year.
Whenever you have starts like him and drives like him, you're going to be competitive every single race.
Kiebermatis also got a second at the World Championships. This young Latvian likes the track. He's got himself in a silver medal position, but they're all chasing down the Canadian guy named Justin Cripps. Well, Cripps, he won this event last year. You know, he likes this track.
Cripps was just a speed merchant all the way down the track, just finding time where other sleds just couldn't find it.
In the 20-year history of the track, Cripps is the only four-man pilot ever to win on this track. Position to do it again. So here's our Cripps, Kiebermatis, and Friedrich. Benny Maher from Austria, pretty good run coming late in the field. Lochner, very disappointing. Again, Germans, no speed. The American sleds, 6th and 8th. 20 sleds in the field, all 20 get to go, reverse order, 20-1. In the second run is the way they go. And again, very mild conditions here in Lake Placid. Winter came upon us November 1st for 6 weeks. This might be the warmest temperatures we've seen in the day in the last 6 weeks. And it affects runner selection, don't you think?
Definitely affects runner selection. Anytime you have a drastic change in weather conditions, that's going to determine what you use and how that equipment plays a role in your downtime.
What tires are to NASCAR, runners are to bobsledding. Athletes stretching. It's a little easier to stretch when it's this temperature compared to when it's zero, right? Here's the French, little choreography on ice. A lot of things go into that start time.
I like to refer to it as a ballet on ice. It's a work of art.
Well, they have to warm up. Here's Andrianov, who nice medal in this competition last year, third for the Russians. He's out of the top 10 this day, though. And you can see last week it was all snow, everything there. And there's the Chinese practicing their start sequence. You know, there's Kiebermatis.
There's a lot of teams looking hungry to move up this next run. And with this track being one of the most difficult tracks in the world, in four-man, anything can happen.
Here's our start list. 20th place to 1, worst to first, as we like to describe it. You're looking at the shady curve in the background. Shady 2, as they call it. And, you know, could see some shuffling of the cards here in the second run. And, again, first four-man race of the year. We'll have another one tomorrow. You know, the Park City track had some problems out there with the refrigeration unit. Thank God they're back up and running, hosting events out there, Youth Olympic Games. You just came from Park City.
Yeah, they're back up and running. We're able to host those events and get those youth athletes qualified for the 2020 Lausanne Olympic Youth Olympics.
So our first team up, Team Suk from Korea, 20th place, 19th best start, 20th downtime. Start, get in, get down, get quick, get those move, push bars come in, 5:21, 300 slower. Now it's got a little warmer since the first heat. Will that make things slower at the start and down the track?
Usually it makes the track definitely a little bit slower, but the start tends to be a little bit faster. But these athletes coming off of that first run, all that adrenaline, they might be a little fatigued. We'll see how it goes throughout the course of the race. He's stringing together a pretty good run here, not too many major mistakes, little things going all the way down the track. It's going to be really important that he's able to take that speed and have a clean exit of 12.
Well, the track seems pretty tame to what if you had hard, fast ice. Nobody has seemed to be out of control with their four-man sleds. The top, 131 kilometers an hour. For all you miles per hour people, that's 81.4 miles an hour. He's the rabbit, first guy down, and no worse than 20th, 55.85. He went 55.41 in his first run, so the track's 4,400 slower for this young Korean. So 4/10 off his first run, that's a lot.
That is a pretty good drop-off, so we'll have to wait to see till the next sled comes down, whether it's the track conditions or whether it was a difference in the equipment again.
Could they change runners in between runs?
No changing runners in between runs. You get a chance to polish the runners and make sure they're clean for the next run. But other than that, you're going with what you started with.
High line there out of the Shady 2 curve. The Shady 1 curve is about 200 meters up the hill on the old track. Good lines. The track looks tame.
We're not seeing the major difference here is we're not seeing a lot of sleds be able to get that slingshot effect out of Shady. That's going to make a huge difference on your time. Even though it's harder to see, it adds up.
Injin Chao, our next athlete off the top of the track. Chinese, full delegation here. Florian and Hans, the two guys in the back, are the Swiss father-son team who manage their equipment. We mentioned the first run. The coach is Pierre Luters, Olympic gold medalist from Canada. Oops.
Little hung up on that load there.
And the other coach is Andre Long, a 4-time Olympic gold medalist from Germany. So the Chinese have spared no expense to bring the best technical expertise to their teams, and they've made some great progress in a couple years.
Definitely, and they're going to continue to progress as we get closer to 2022 games.
Well, you think they're going to have some success like the Koreans did with an Olympic silver medal in bobsledding and a gold medal in skeleton? You think that's possible?
The host nation has always done well in bobsled and skeleton, in these sliding sports, to come away with a medal, so we'll have to see how they continue to progress. Not a bad run so far, but he is losing time a little bit to the Korean sled.
Second best speed, so the track's definitely slower than the first run. 100th, this is another one, too close to call, right to the 100th of a second. The Chinese or the Koreans, 300ths, there it is. So you don't have that speed in the chicane, you can lose on the bottom part of that track, especially in 4-man.
The bottom part of the track is so essential because after 17, you're going all uphill, and if you don't carry any speed into curve 18, it's all over from there.
Through and down, so they'll finish no worse than 20th place. Points, World Cup points, seeding. What do you see here? Good cohesion?
Pretty good cohesion. I think it's one of those things, it's early season,
Late.
Little hung up on the load. They're going to continue to get better as the season progresses, the more and more these teams work together.
Again, their coaches are, between them, 5 gold medals in 4 Olympics. If you figure that out, there's a total of 8 gold medals given away from 98 to 2010. Their coach is Andre Lange. He's got 4 of those gold medals. 5 of the 8 gold medals their coaches had in that 4 Olympic period.
Not a bad coaching pedigree at all.
Team Roman Heimrich from France. Not so good in the 2-man last week. He crashed in training, 9th in the first race, 12th in the second race. But the year before, a silver medal in the 2-man. So this young French pilot starting to impress people. Still learning the 4-man sled. And a lot of you've driven both, the 2 and the 4. How would you describe the difference in the 2 sleds?
The 4-man is more like a truck, and I describe the 2-man as a sports car. Big difference between them. 4-man takes a lot longer to turn, and it takes a lot longer to figure out how to manipulate that sled down the track fast.
Which one do you like to drive the best?
4-man is the king of all kings. It's the fastest, and it's the most fun. Having a little bit of mistakes down the track, nothing too crazy. Just a little bit here, a little late there, but really going to add up some time at the end. But he seems to be holding his lead right now.
Says he's just maturing his abilities in the 4-man, and it takes a lot to go from the 2 and the 4. Some people are good at both. Some people prefer the 2 or the 4. 200's lead. This is another one with the 3rd best speed. Could be a tie. Maybe the first one. No, 100th. He wins by 100th, so the Koreans look on. The French looks Max Robert, the 1998 Olympic bronze medalist for France in 4-man bobsled, still coaching with Bruno Majon. French, they got a lot of hopes on this young athlete.
Yeah, this young driver is going to really use this experience from today and carry it to tomorrow.
Runner tips, bang, that's the norm. Now come over to the left side. Ooh, he got stuck with a skid there on the entrance to Whiteface.
That skid leading into 4 is really going to cost you some time.
Seen some helmets back there too. We shouldn't see the helmets like that and that aerodynamic need. 82-mile-an-hour speeds down there, and how important is the air?
Very important. And on the French team, we've got a lot of new athletes in the back of the sled, so it's going to take some time until they get comfortable in those riding positions.
Okay, next up from the United States, Jeff Gadbois, he's a Vermont guy. Chris Avery's from San Diego. Michael Fote is from Alpine, Utah. And Dakota Lynch from Boise, Idaho. 4 different states represented here. Shows the diversity of the recruiting in the United States program now.
Definitely something we're continuing to do in the U.S. is find great athletes wherever they are. A 5:22 start time, they're not going to be very happy with that.
And the speed, plus he hit both out of 2, 3. He's driving the Night Train 2 sled that Steve Holcomb piloted to the silver medal in the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympic Games. Jeff's 10 hundredths behind. If he keeps it 10 hundredths behind, he's got a chance on the bottom to use his track now. It's 9, the 113.1 speed. Those not the best.
He's really going to have to use his experience on this track to try and make up some time at the bottom of portions.
Got to get it to 5, 4, 6 hundredths here at speed. Third best speed, lost it more. So he's going to fall back maybe through all 3 spots. But the start time and those skids up there between curves 1 and 2 on his home track, that wasn't what he wanted.
It's the wrong place to lose time up at the top of the track because it's really hard with the drivers in this field to gain it back.
French maintain the lead.
Jeff's not going to be happy with that one, but he's really going to go into tomorrow looking to improve and looking to use his experience from today.
Yeah, Michael Fote is on this team. His brother, Chris, was one of those guys that won the silver medal with Holcomb in 2014. We saw Chris here. He's here.
Chris has been a great ambassador of sport and has done everything he can to try and grow the sport in North America. A little late off of that curve, struggling to get off.
Yeah, those mistakes up in curves 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Really put him behind the 8 ball, I could say. Next up, another Chinese sled. Seems like a lot of them. A lot of red jackets out in the venue.
They're really working to develop a lot of different pilots on the men's and women's side and also on the skeleton side. Even had a youth skeleton athlete win the overall title. It's pretty impressive.
Team Jin. Well, they know how to yell and start in and down. And a little rough. 14, best start, 800s. Look at the speed on the left. Only the 4th best velocity. You could have the best start, but if you don't get in the sled properly, sit down before that first curve, you lose it all on that exit speed.
And that's really a factor of those guys getting comfortable with each other, really learning each other and learning how to load in sync.
Well, 2100s, that's relative to the start. If he keeps that, 2400, so he's pulling away. China, this is just unbelievable. Chinese sleds coming down the track.
Had a little bit of trouble in the upper portions of the track. Didn't really get that same momentum out of Shady, but he's keeping his speed.
Yeah, best speed. Well, don't think he doesn't have a little Pierre Luters or Andre Longa technology in those runners below him. You know, those guys know how to bring the best equipment in and just teach these young Chinese athletes what to do. 55.83, 55.20 in the first run, 6,300 slower. We're looking at a much slower track, a very tame track to what we saw a couple weeks ago at NEC when it was real cold out here, and they were getting close to those track records.
Yeah, this track for me personally is always so much more fun when it's hard, fast ice. It creates a lot more problems going down the track, but when it's fast, you're enjoying it much more as a pilot.
Well, when it's hard, fast ice, there's no grip. You know, there's no friction. So things go faster. Good profile there for these young Chinese athletes. Little movement there in the heads.
A little bit difficulty on these bottom curve, on this curve 8. A little bit of airborne in curve 9, which is something you definitely don't want to see.
China in the lead. I have a hard time saying that, but it is the reality that the Chinese are leading with 5 sleds down, 15 more to go. Next up, athletes from Russia. Andrianov, 15th place into the first run. Wasn't very happy with that result.
He's done historically well on this track, and he knows how to drive the track. Now it's just a matter of putting together a solid second run.
Well, he did so well on this track that he was 5th in World Cup points last year, and he medaled here in this race last year. So for him to be back in this position is disappointing. Could be runner choice.
You gotta wonder too if it affects how he's driving with this softer ice. We've seen harder ice all week during training, and if this softer ice is actually affecting his driving ability.
Well, green numbers, as we would expect. He's one of the most experienced pilots in the field. Again, 5th in World Cup points last year, so look how low he is in the sled too. The Russians got great history on this track. Zubkov won 4 different World Cups on this track in the 20 years it's been open.
He had a really nice bottom portion of the track, really allowed him to pick up quite a bit of speed at the bottom and really turn those numbers up.
55.62. He's the leader, and he's 55.18 in the first run, so 40 hundredths slower. Seems the norm. Everybody about 4/10 slower in their second run. You know, we got to come back out here tomorrow, and they're talking for warm conditions again tomorrow. Could see some people change runners overnight, though, huh?
Oh, definitely. Now that they've had this experience of today, they'll be able to go into tomorrow and adjust their game plan.
We'll adjust it, change the tires or the runners in our sport. Curve 14, Benham's Bend, named after the Lake Placid native who won 2 silver medals at the 52 Olympic Games in Oslo. That's pretty good, Bree, but I do see one helmet back there, that aerodynamic profile, but it's so easy for us to critique sitting here, huh?
Yeah, it's really important that you come out of that curve on the left side in order to shoot it straight down the pipe.
Christoph Hafner, David Golan, Christian Hammers, Tobias Schneider from Germany, the former junior world champion. He's back in the field in 12th place, tied for 12th with the Monegasque, who are coming up next. Start time wasn't that best, 5:10 in the first run.
As a younger driver, he's really just going to look forward to getting as much experience on Lake Placid track and getting over to Europe as fast as possible.
So he posted the fastest start, and then he turned around and had the best exit velocity out of curve 1. So that's what you need to do. 300ths though, that lead should have been more than that. So he might have lost some time. Tough to pick up where you make a minute mistake here on this track. Still at 300, so it looks like but the speed's way off. We noticed that the German sleds don't have any speed out of Shady.
And one of the things that happens on this track, when it's slow, when it's warmer conditions, drivers tend to overdrive a little bit, which ends up costing a lot of time.
Second best speed, 400ths in the bank. In the bottom part of the track, uphill section 5. He's starting to pull away, so Christoph Hafner will be the leader. Big challenges facing this athlete. He has to go back in the next couple weeks. German championships in Altenburg, Germany. Rennie Spies on the left, the head coach. Leo Leopold on the right. They have to go back and compete. They're one of the teams competing for the 2 spots in the World Championships in Altenburg, Germany coming up. There'll be about 6 teams. You know, Lochner. I mean, there's some good people that, and Nico Walter, who's coming off an injury. Friedrich is the only German guaranteed to be in the World Championships.
Let's look at this curve 3. If you watch the runner tips, the runners are really turned. Looks like a clean exit, but that amount of driving in curve 3 is really going to cost you time down the track.
A little high there on the first part of the Shady 2 curve, and the slingshot effect onto the bottom, but German sleds have not had great speed on the exit of Shady. That runners?
They really just have to figure out that line and maximizing the different line for their sled.
There's the scabbers. That's how they move the sleds around. We're missing Rudy Rinaldi. Did he scratch? Or they're tied. Okay, no, there's a tie here. So Rinaldi's next. Stolneff is coming up now. This athlete's been around a long time. He hasn't. So how do they determine when they're tied like that? How do you determine who goes next?
That's a good question. I've seen it done multiple ways before. Start time, speed time. Murat, not really. I've seen them flip a coin. Not really sure what they did this race.
Stolneff didn't compete last year. He was a veteran of the team. Competed in Sochi. 200s back, capable driver.
He's really going to have to clean it up down this bottom portion of the track to really gain some speed. And he did.
Yeah, well.
Little high going through Shady. Hoping for a great exit of 12 to carry more speed.
His onboard telemetry's not working. So we don't see, he's 100 back, so he's going to have the perfect line here.
19 can be an essentially important curve. It's going uphill, so you want to make sure you're on the right line there. Looked a little high on that exit.
Second, 55.59, 4,200 slower. Again, four tenths is the norm for the slower.
Once again, he was tied with Rudy Rinaldi after the first heat, so it will be great to see Rudy coming down and see where we all line up.
Stolnev, again, the veteran driver's been driving for 10 years, Russian soldier. Perplexed.
A little bit too much cross,
there. Yeah,
too much on curve 7. Cost him some time there. Rough entrance to 9.
High late there?
High line and shady. Too high, too late, gonna really cost you some speed. You really want to accelerate out of that curve, and with those high lines, it's gonna limit that ability.
So here's a good story. Rudy Rinaldi, Team Monaco. They were in medal position last year. I think they were leading when they crashed, right? They were leading the race and they crashed. Would have been a historic medal. Monaco has won one medal in its career in Calgary 6 years ago.
If you notice Rudy's shoes, they're actually tennis shoes with a Bobsleigh plate attached. It's a really cool, ingenious idea by Rudy.
He's also got some foot problems. You know, he's had foot injury for about 3 years. 6th best start velocity, and that comes off the best start. So they didn't do very well entering the sled and getting around that first curve. Only 200s back. We saw last year this sled can motor on the bottom part of the track, and he's going to need to.
He's picking up some time here.
140.
Another high line through shady though, so it's going to be interesting to see his speed coming out of curve 14.
That was the best speed in the exit of shady. He had 100th in the bank. 100th of a second we're dealing with. 4th best speed there. Now he's 100th behind. Well, can he find that magic line? We saw it in the two-man race last week. There is a magic line down here. We saw it in Skeleton, but not for Rudy Rinaldi. 55-65, 4,800s. The Germans move up another one. Pretty important for them to get in the top 10. You can
only dropped 1100s behind the sled he was tied with in the previous heat in Hafner.
Not happy. He dropped 3 spots. Another chance tomorrow, Rudy. I don't think he's going to interview anybody real quick.
And that's how tight this racing is. Only 1100s between first place and 4th at this time.
Right now, after 2 miles, almost 2 miles down the track, real high here in Benham's Bend. Look at the air package here, the helmets. Look, his visor came up a little bit. Look at that.
That really affects the driver's ability to see. Coming out of those bottom curves sometimes 12.
How's that? Doesn't he tape that? Don't you tape the visor there?
You can tape it, but sometimes coming out of those bottom half of those curves, the visor gets jostled and gets popped up.
We move on. Young Jun Won, his team, and back at 11th spot for the Olympic silver medalist. Not familiar for not what he wants to do to be in that position. Last week in the two-man races, he was 8th and 6th.
He's definitely looking to move up here in this run.
5:08, first run. Start should match that, if not better. 5:10, 200 slower. He should have the best velocity here on the left. 7th best velocity. That's the entry of the sled.
Solid line coming out of 3 into 4.
He had some issues with speed in the bottom part of the track too. He had green numbers up here. They're gone away already. You know, again, runner selection. Ooh.
A lot of driving in this run. A lot of over driving. Hard things to necessarily see, but really manipulating the sled down the track instead of just letting it run.
He's 2 or 3 kilometers down to the best speed so far. So now the question is, he's going to drop 4 or 5 spots. 6th best speed. And any other question begs, you think the track really is slowing down?
With these weather conditions, as hard as the track crew's working, it's really difficult to keep the tracks together.
Well, 77s, he's 6,300 slower. 4,000 slower is what the best teams are doing, like Hafner, the leader. He was almost 7/10 slower in his second run.
Had a little bit of trouble in the middle section of the track. A little bit of hard steering of 6 and into 7, so it really cost him some time up there.
The last 2 sleds have both dropped 4 spots. So, but of course, everything, as you said, is so close. Start, everything looked good there.
Here's a 6 and 7. Really had a lot of steering going on here to get back on course, and that's going to cost you a lot of time.
Speed, when you're trying to accelerate and get the speed point down to shady 2. Well, another chance tomorrow for our Olympic silver medalist. Here's our standings. Christoph Hafner in the lead. Stolmov is in second. Andrianov in third. Top 10 sleds yet to come. Well, the warm conditions have finally hit the Adirondack Mountains. And again, here's our leaders, Team Christoph Hafner. And we had full-blown winter here starting in November, and this is the warmest we've seen in 6 weeks. And John Napier and the track crew have done a fantastic job. We've had track records in luge, track records in skeleton, women's bob last week, right here, and then and this week, we're not going to see any track records in format. We saw them in skeleton yesterday. Skeleton record here was like they started off like at 57, 58 seconds. They got below 53 seconds yesterday. That's unbelievable that they can continue to lower the track record.
It's really incredible how hard the track crew has worked to put this track together, to maintain it all season, but also the athletes. We're seeing the caliber of athletes jump up dramatically. The increase in training methods, everything from top down, it's really been impressive.
And this track's had more sleds, bobsled, luge, skeleton, down it in October, November, and December than ever, because of the roofs, and then of course all the training that came from Park City that came here. Calgary track's now closed. It's been a great benefit to the tourism and the hotels in the area, but great work that Johnny Napier and his crew's done in maintaining this facility, and of course having the roof on the facility. You slid here when there was no roof. How much difference does that make?
Makes a huge difference. It's able to keep the track conditions in more stable ice conditions, and it's just been amazing. And the biggest thing is the track crew has worked extremely hard, and these people are working by hand on every single curve. There's no machinery, anything like that to do it. It's by hand every single night to put this track together.
Team Christoph Hafner is our leader. Welcome back to Lake Placid. John Morgan with my broadcast partner, Mrs. Taylor. Marcus Treichel, the next athlete to come down the track from Austria. 10th place, not bad. Alana, this young athlete here, had 21st and 21st in his 2 races last weekend. Had some injuries, couldn't run. Comes out here, he's got to feel good about himself. Top 10 in the format.
Anytime you can finish in the top 10 in Lake Placid, given his limited driving experience here, you've got to be happy. The margins are so close though, he's going to look to try and maintain his time or improve over this second run.
Listen to the sounds of these out of control sport utilities.
A little bit of late height out of Shady. Going to struggle to maintain that speed, but let's see how he does.
He's got 1 numbers all the way down the track. Let's see if he can do it here. 4th best speed. He's got 100th in the bank. I don't know. That's not a good sign right there.
Coming up these uphill sections can be really important that he does whatever he can to maintain gain
right
speed.
To the 100th. Probably 400 or 500 to the negative. 200s to the negative. So there, Hafner moves up another one. He's picked off 3. 2 Russians. And look at that. You think they're excited about getting into the top 10?
This is going to give Hafner a lot of confidence going into those German championships. Not having a lot of experience here and then coming away with a top 10 result. Great to see.
Well, he drops 1. Still way better finish than last week for Marcus Treichel from Austria.
Let's look at curve 3. He's a little high on that exit, so has to work really hard to try and get off of 3. 3 is one of those curves that can bite you. You can crash out of curve 3 here.
You can ask Todd Hayes, 2005. Good lines here down in the 3-corner combination they call the Labyrinth. There's Treichel.
Looks happy with that run.
Now Dominik Dvorčák from the Czech Republic. 3rd best start time in the first run. Runs a 10.9 100-meter dash. Might be the best sprinter in the front seat of anybody. 502. Gee, everybody's going slower, so 503, 504.
It's been really impressive to follow these teams and see how much they train together during the off season. These particular guys live with each other, train together, do everything they can to improve their starts.
Had the best start, but the 5th best speed. There's a skid. Ooh, dove out of there.
Gonna have a little bit of trouble through these middle curves with that exit.
1600s, he might go down a little bit to 13 or 14 here. 12, so now game on here, and the slingshot out of Shady. He hopes to take advantage of the speed there.
Not too bad out of exit of 12. Let's see what he can do through the chicanes.
Well, that's as good as you get, but the 5th best speed down. This looks like another sled's going to fall behind Hofner and the Germans.
Ooh, rough transition from 17-18, cost him a little bit more time.
The track, I think, is slowing down here, Alana. 6th best time, 55.73. 6,600 slower. Again, they went 4,000 slower in their run, and they've moved up 5 spots. So Dominic Dvorak, another sled, falls 4 spots. That's 3 of the last 4 sleds have fell 3 or 4 spots.
That's the competitiveness of 4-man racing. You know, it never comes down to just the first run. You have to put 2 together.
You see how frustrated Dvorak is. Not a lot wrong. Well, that's wrong there. That's way on the wrong side of that entrance to Whiteface curve. And then he gets in here late.
Losing that much speed at the top of the track is really going to cost you time down at the bottom.
This is curve 14, Benham's Bend. Then the exit of Benham's Bend. Boy, there's pretty good aerodynamic profile there. A little bit of a helmet, number 2. Can't fault much of that. Just not fast. First of our 2 American sleds we're going to see here. Cody Basque, Whitehall, New York. McDonald, Adams, and Horn. And they're fighting a race within a race. They want to emerge as the top American. Good start, 506 in the first run.
506 in the second run. Driving the Under Armour sled, they're really looking forward to stringing together a good run and making up some times down at the bottom.
Second best speed, which is an improvement from the previous sleds who had the best starts, and 5th or 6th best velocities. 20 hundredths in the bank. Now, if there's anybody that's been down this track, he's probably been down the track more than anybody.
He started here as a junior bobsledder, so he's got a lot of experience, and it really shows. Let's see if he can get that slingshot effect. Really nice exit of Shady, coming around in curve 12.
Well, 20 hundredths lead is Shady. The best speed we've seen. So what he gets here with the speed. Best speed here, 24 hundredths. This is going to be the leader. Question is, how much more can he grow that 24 hundredths lead? Best speed in the bottom. So Cody Basque from Whitehall, New York, will be the leader. Finally, somebody knocked off that German sled. 55.39, only 3,500 slower in his second run. Previous 7 or 8 sleds, we saw him 60, 70 hundredths slower. This is the best run of the heat so far.
Cody's going to be really happy with that run. His guys are going to be really happy. It was much improved over the first run.
Consistency, 506 in both runs.
The most consistent team at the start we've seen so far. We're looking forward to seeing if the top 7 sleds can be as consistent.
Cody with a 6th and 9th last week in the 2-man, nursing a hamstring problem. It's been a nemesis of his for a couple years. In and down, good technique. Second best velocity around the curve, but down here, he really showed his track knowledge down here, Alana. He's the first guy to really not be so much slower in the second run like everybody else.
Definitely. That just goes with experience of driving this track in different conditions. He knows this track.
So Team Michael Vogt from Switzerland, our next athlete to come down this historic track, or the location where we've hosted 2 Winter Olympic Games out here.
Chris Woolley, one of their push coaches, longtime push coach for Great Britain. He's done some great work out there, and now with the Swiss team.
5:14 again, so he's 500ths down. Speed, 11th best velocity around the first curve. He's going to be down 15 or 20 hundredths here at the next clock, and that's going to be tough to overcome.
He's going to have to be really strong in the bottom sections of the half.
Ooh, only 5 down. That's strange to go from start velocity and the exit. He's only 5 down, so he could catch Basque here in the bottom.
Let's see how his exit of 12 is. It's going to be key to keeping that speed.
Same speed as Basque and the exit of Shady.
Clean exit down there.
Hard hit there, down to 400s. Third best speed. I don't know, to the 100th of a second. We'll see if Cody Basque is still 300s down. Cody Basque and Michael Vogt from Switzerland, 300s down. So they matched all the way down. The American team here beat him at the start, beat him at the bottom.
Exactly. You know, it all starts at the top. That extra time you got at the start is going to help you be faster down the bottom.
Beat him by 800s in both runs at the start, 1600s total. We say that's a multiplier effect of 3, so 4200s. Vogt maybe outdrove Cody, but the better start time put the American on top of the leaderboard.
Vogt should be really happy with the runs he was able to put together today.
Top 10.
And whenever you have that start deficit, being able to go toe-to-toe with people who push 800s faster is a really good sign for a young pilot.
Yeah, he really improved up there in that Devil's Highway. Usually when you're down by 500s at the start, that's going to multiply a lot until the next clock. These lines, good lines from this young Swiss pilot. Next up, Hunter Church from Katyville, New York. This young athlete who finished 5th in both two-man races last weekend. Blaine McConnell, Joshua Williamson, James Reed, and Kyle Wilcox. They also had a 5:06 start in the first run. So, 5:06. Oh! That's deep trouble. Pussy's the driver. Can he get in, get down? 5:13. Whoa, boy.
Had a little bit of rocky entrance.
You know, slip getting in. Now he just got to erase what he just did and just try and get the sled to the bottom. Pretty sloppy in curve 2 and 3. Now he's the 7th best time. So, whoa.
And you saw the guys behind him struggle a little bit to follow him into the sled. So you
yeah,
got to wonder how quickly he was able to get those D-rings and get back control of this sled.
Yeah, he's going to fall 7, 8 spots out of the top 10. Hunter Church with we saw that yesterday in men's skeleton with somebody falling at the start. Thomas Dukars. You take it for granted running across the ice in those little spikes, and it just looks so easy to get in, but it's like making a layup in basketball. You don't always make that layup.
And it's just that easy to slip. And as you can see, that start time at the beginning cost him down the track.
Falls 5 places out of the top 10. You know, you don't have to look at what Hunter's doing right there and to know. But he's lucky he made the sled.
He's not going to be happy with that one, but tomorrow's a new day.
Yeah, you got a chance to come back out here tomorrow, Hunter. Watch his.
The push bar actually looks like it collapses a little bit.
If they show that us again, maybe we can see if that push bar collapses. That's the whole thing. Oh, look at the guys are still moving around on the sled there. Hunter probably didn't even have control of the D-rings. So how not to do it? Oh, they started right away. Another German sled, Johannes Lochner, 5 flat. He had the first run, 4:99 here. Clocks not on us. Here they are. The clocks are back. Cody Basque is the leader for the United States. Team Lochner here, 3/10 lead. Didn't have very good first run and didn't have very good speed in the exit of Shady in the first run. So let's see what they can do here. 114.2. That's better than anybody else.
Johannes is really putting together a solid run here. Really looking together to string down this bottom of the track and move up a couple places.
He won one of the 2 races last weekend. He's tied for World Cup points with his teammate Friedrich. 1st and 2nd in the 2 races last weekend. Young athlete, lives about a mile, born and raised about a mile from the track in Königssee. His uncle Rudy won the world championships in 1991 in 2-man bobsledding in Altenburg, so little pedigree there. Americans, Cody Basque, he moved into 2nd place. Lochner, though, 54.93 in his first run.
Here at the start, it's where Lochner really starts to get off his advantage. You can tell his guys are motivated, really trying to give every hundredth into that sled. And they're one of the few teams to go actually faster in the second run at the start.
Perfect lines. You wouldn't know it. I mean, why couldn't he have gone this fast in the first run? I mean, he's got a 3,300 lead, and if you look at it, he only had 1,200s. He had 1,300s on Cody Basker, and then he beat him by 2,500s. Here's our top five. Lochner's in the lead. Basker's second. Vogt third. Top five sleds yet to come from Lake Placid. Team Austria, Benny Maher, fourth place at the end of the first run. This is for a chance for a medal. 5:03. If they're going to medal, they're going to have to match that start or get better. Lochner just did. 5:05. So Lochner went faster by 100, the Austrians, but the Austrians have the best speed velocity even though they were down 400s at the start.
They had a really nice smooth load, nice couple of curves here, and let's see if he can continue it through more difficult sections of the track.
John Morgan and Alana Myers-Taylor, our Olympic silver medalists at the last games, doing commentary here for you. And Benny Maher, he's got the experience. 200's back, speed 114. He's a tenth of a kilometer down to Lochner, who had a perfect run down here. Going to need to match the speed to overcome the slight deficiency. He's got the fourth best speed. He's down 200s.
Definitely going to need to try and pick up some time here at the bottom portion of the track and have a solid 19.
Oh, he's come back into green numbers. So Benny Maher showing his experience. Look how low he is into the finish, and he takes out Lochner by 1,300ths. Wow. Maher, who had a very subpar two-man weekend, he finished 12th and 8th. He's pretty happy with that. He's expecting a child next week. Elizabeth Vacci, the former skeleton athlete, sitting back home watching this.
That's a good omen.
He
for the
hopes
birth
to
of
get
a
home.
child.
She's due like tomorrow or the next day.
Yep.
So
she's due very soon, and that's going to be a good way to celebrate the birth of their child with this top 5 run in Lake Placid.
Well, start not as good as Lochner, a little bit off, but the good load, better speed around that first curve, and he's a great driver. And the thing is I like about him is he knows the equipment. Benny Maher's become a student of the equipment.
And he really executed at the bottom of the track. Had some really good lines through 17 to really make sure he had enough speed at the bottom.
Next up, Francisco Friedrich, Candy Bauer, Martin Grothkop, Alexander Schuler. That's not Thorsten Margus on the back. Different brakeman. Thorsten went in the two-man with him last weekend in one race. But this had this guy here in a 498 in the first run. 497. Let's see what the velocity is coming around the first curve. Third best velocity. That could be they ran too far, got in differently. These are 4 big men in this little tube. And the German sled, well, they didn't have good speed in the first run, but Lochner had better speed in the second run, way better than he had the first run. Boy, we saw some helmets change direction on that entrance to 6.
Yeah, he's really going to look to clean it up down at the bottom half, really have some smooth lines in order to keep that lead in front of Lochner.
Speed wasn't great, but he's got a quarter second in the bank.
Let's see how he's in the chicanes. Came out on the left side.
17th best speed. Boy, that's strange. There's no way he's the 17th best speed. He's the leader, green numbers. Boy, maybe it was. He's down to 500s.
It's going to be close.
This is too close. Not. Look at this. Something happened there. There's a medal for the Austrians. Listen, this sport is easy to predict. Something went wrong there. He had 2,400s in the lead.
You really have to look at the bottom portion of the track. Benny Maher really made sure in 17 he wasn't overdriving. He didn't do any major mistakes.
How can this guy, world Olympic champion, have the 17th best speed on the track of 17 sleds? There's still 2 sleds to go, so he only beat 1 sled.
And that's a question he'll be asking for the rest of the evening, really trying to go into tomorrow and figure out what happened.
That's strange. You know, in his career, he's never... Wow. He dropped 40 hundredths in the last 300 meters of the track. Where did it go? The naked eye, we can't tell. But the Germans will be a little perplexed about that. We move on. Team Oscars, Kiebermanis, last year's silver medalist in this event. silver medalist in the World Championships, silver medalist in the World Cup season last year, on the podium 4 times, 8 races. And they get superior start times. 5:02 in the first run, should be the same or better. 5:02, consistency, speed on the left.
Really nice load into curve 1.
5th best. He's got a little time to play with, but what we just saw there from one of the most decorated bobsled pilots in the world, very perplexing.
With the bottom of the portion of the track, he's really going to have to be on his lines, make sure he's not overdriving to hold that lead.
He's 114.4, great speed.
Let's see how he is in the exit of 12. Not bad.
Runner tips. Here, 2100's lead. After what just happened to Friedrich, I don't dare say anything. That's 2100's down to 17. This has got to be enough to be the leader. Oscar's Kiebermanis into the finish. He'll be guaranteed for the 2nd consecutive year at least a silver medal. The Austrians, they're happy they escaped here with a bronze medal. But Kiebermanis, very consistent. Didn't do anything wrong at the start.
I think a lot of people tonight are going to go back and analyze what exactly happened in this race, what's going on at the bottom of the track, and did they make the right equipment choices.
Runners, tires, you know, the tires, what runners are to bobsledding, tires are to auto racing. Just 4 huge men getting in. We already saw what happened with Hunter Church. You do this hundreds and hundreds of times in dryland training, and you come out here and you take it for granted, and then the drive down the track, Bree.
Really nice recovery down at the bottom of the track. Great 12.
Your colleague Bree's doing commentary for Luge out there in Viesturs this weekend. Now they're on the final sled of the day. Justin Cripps, Ryan Sommer, Cameron Stones, Benjamin Coquel. They won this event last year.
He put together a great run the first heat, lots of speed, and I called him the speed merchant. Let's see if he can do it again.
Well, they had great starts. 5:02, probably match that. 5:04, a couple hundred slower. Top 5 speed would be good. There's the 5th. Now get out of 2 without a straightaway mishap. Perfect. Perfect. Ooh, that tap there.
Tap could cost him, but we really have to see how he is in 5, 6, and 7.
If he gets us out to 15, 1800s here, which he did in the first run.
Ooh, rough transition there, though. Let's see if it costs him.
115 speed. No one's had that speed in the second run. Justin Cripps, who's been sliding down the track for about 3 weeks, won the North America Cup here November. He's pulling away.
Making sure he's smooth at the bottom of this track and carrying the speed.
2600s. Justin Cripps is going to win the gold medal here in Lake Placid. 54.95. It's only 40 hundredths slower. So Cripps, for 2 consecutive years, wins this event.
The Canadians are going to be really happy about that. Starting off the season 4-man with a win, really good way to start the season.
Well, tomorrow's another day too. Well, when you got top 4 start, nobody had the speed he had in the exit of Shady.
And Crip really drives this track well. He knows exactly how much to drive and exactly how much to let the sled run and just do its thing.
Well, he's got a pattern going here. Won last year. He's the first Canadian to ever win a 4-man bobsled race in the history of this track. So I go right down the list. Holcomb, Zukov, Holger, and he's won now 2 consecutive years. Team Justin Cripps, great starts, great drive down the track, no mistakes. Had the best speed in the exit of Shady. He was the top guy, top to bottom. Nobody could touch him, especially in the bottom part of the track. Cripps gets a chance to do this all again tomorrow, but he's won 2 consecutive races here on this track.
Can he make it 3 tomorrow? We'll find out.
Here's our results. Cripps, Kiebermanis, the same guys were first and second last year. Benny Meyer from Austria sneaks in there. Francisco Friedrich, something happened there. We still can't figure that out. Lochter, disappointing 5th. Cody Baskin moves up into a top 6. Hunter Church slips to 11th with the start mishap. Dvorak slips out too. Rudy Rinaldi disappointing. There's the pictures of Shady 2 over there, Alana. And you never got a chance to ride in the old track, did you?
Never had a chance. But Shady 2 is one of the most notorious bobsled curves in the world. It's iconic.
There's Oscar's Kibermanis. 6th year we've seen him driving. As soon as they pulled him off the streets of Riga, there's one of the happy Mr. Summer from Austria. Dave Owens, one of the jury members, looking like they're going to inspect the Austrian sled. They inspect all top 3 sleds, right?
Have to inspect the sleds and make sure everybody's up to code. Nothing's broken with the sleds and good for competition.
Hey, Benny, how was your day? That's what I figured. Good work.
Great work by the Austrians, the Canadians, and the Latvians to come away with the medals. Really encouraging to see Kibermanis do this on the high level, especially as Mel Bardis looks to come back. Olympic champion Oscars Mel Bardis looks to come back for second half of the season.
Not too often we don't see Germans on the podium, especially after last weekend. I thought it was going to be a long year, the way they dominated. First and second in the 2-man.
You can never underestimate the Germans. They're always hungry. They're always searching for more and more speed down the track. And tomorrow's another day.
Well, that's beauty. This is like a world championship warm-up, you know, with these 2 heats on Saturday, 2 heats Sunday, and not the 2-man or the 4-man, which is the World Cup format. So this has been a very interesting 2 weeks in Lake Placid. Hey, we got women's bobsled coming up this afternoon. You're going to have fun with that, right?
Women's bobsled, most excited for that, of course. 4-man's great, but tune in for women's bobsled.
Yeah, a little bit later. And the Austrians are sitting there waiting. Somebody else is getting inspected in there.
They won't have much time to celebrate tonight, though. Got to get ready for tomorrow.
Welcome back to Lake Placid 4-man bobsledding. Here's our World Cup standings. Cripps, of course, he's the leader. This is just the results of the first race we just saw. Second race tomorrow. Deck of cards could change. They could shake things up. People might change some runners. Warm conditions. They were training in cold conditions all week long. Again, this is basically the way everybody finished, top to bottom. You know, a pretty interesting race. Alana, the surprise, I don't think, from Cripps and Kibermanis. Great to see Benny Meyer win a medal, but Cripps, you know, he did this last year. He just did it again. He did it a couple weeks ago in the North America's Cup. I think this is like coming his home track.
Cripps knows this track better than most people in the world, and he's really gearing up for next year when we host the World Championships in Lake Placid.
Yeah, and he finished third in the 2-man competition last weekend, so this is Justin Cripps might move down here. Here's the flower ceremony.
He'll definitely be one to beat next year going into the World Championships.
Well, needless to say, right about the time athletes, yeah, he's at the age where you want to peak. Won the Olympic gold medal, tied for the Olympic gold medal with Friedrich in the 2-man in Korea. So exciting. Kibermanis, though, keep your eyes on him. I think Kibermanis is, you know, not that he's going to have a breakout year, but I kind of believe the Latvians are well prepared to also challenge the Germans as we get to Altenburg.
The Latvians love their bobsled. They love their skeleton. They really pour behind those sports as a winter country.
There's Joost Matley, gave out the flowers. Team Cripps, Team Kibermanis, Team Meyer. No Germans on the podium. Pretty surprising. We won't see that too often the rest of the year or ever. So for quite an exciting day, Alana, thanks for joining me. We're going to have you back for women's bob, and tomorrow, you know, my TV crew and the Chalk Wild Martin, you guys were awesome as usual. So thanks for watching. Women's bobsled coming up later for Alana Myers-Taylor, a pregnant Alana Myers-Taylor. Alana, good luck with that. I'm John Morgan. Thanks for watching. We'll see you this afternoon.